We left off talking about spontaneous recovery, and there's a couple things I wanted to mention before we move on. Just an example: first love, high school reunion is the example listed. The way to think of this is, let's say that you were in love in high school and you had somebody that you really cared about, first real love kind of thing, and you guys were planning your lives together. You're going to graduate and then go on and as a couple go on and do things. Well, there's a breakup. Somebody gets their heart broken. Maybe you're the one that got your heart broken. Maybe the other person did. You go your different ways. And it's been a lot of years. And for a while, you're sad, you grieve, but you move on. New relationships come up. And then eventually you might settle down. You might even end up getting married, maybe have kids. And so it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years, and you get that letter or email saying high school reunion. So you turn to the person with you. You're like, hey, you want to go to my high school reunion? They're like, yeah, the person you're currently with. So you guys go to the high school reunion and you're seeing each other for the first time, schoolmates you hadn't seen in 20 years, 30 years, and hey, it's so and so, and how you doing? And wow, you haven't changed at all. And you're lying because they really did change. But anyways, you're mingling and you look over at the bar area and you see her or you see him and you're like, wow. And so you turn to the person next to you, like, hey, you need a drink? You wait here, I'll go get you one. So you make your way over and you reintroduce yourself or get reacquainted, and your heart, man, you feel it. It's like, wow, spontaneous recovery. The love that went on back then, it's almost like it comes up brand new again. You thought, I'm over that. That's completely gone. But it can bring, spontaneous recovery can bring back things that were classically conditioned into us a long time ago and bring it up as if it's occurring. Now, is it powerful enough that you're going to disappear and never go back to your husband and wife or the person you came with? Hopefully not. Hopefully you go back. But hey, with social media and, for example, Facebook, a lot of people have reconnected with their first loves or people from their past. And when they're reconnecting, there's spontaneous recovery, and it can be good. Or maybe you come across somebody on Facebook that you have a bad association with. You're like, ooh, you get a bad feeling in your stomach. You go, there she is again, never liked that girl. And, it can come up fresh, I guess is what I'm saying, whether it's love or anger or whatever it might be. Sorry about that, guys. I'm skipping ahead here. Let me go back to where I was. Um, Classical conditioning in humans, again, adversive conditioning is when we pair something negative with something that might be, for instance, alcohol. If you look at antabuse, drug treatment for alcoholism since the late 1940s, it's still around, believe it or not. Some people will use antabuse as a form of treatment to try to quit drinking. It says when someone takes this drug, ingesting even the smallest amount of alcohol will make them very ill, and exposure to alcohol, even mouthwash or cologne, can cause somebody to become very nauseated. Antabuse continues to be used in treatment in alcoholism today. Yeah, so that's an example of an aversive conditioning form. The other example was using shock, but typically we don't go that route. It sounds a little more extreme, but certainly could be used as an adversive form of conditioning somebody to kick a bad habit or to stop drinking or stop smoking or whatever that might be. I want y'all to take a look at this. This is not in your textbook, but I think it's really important. Conditioned emotional response, what we call CER, classically conditioned response to a previous neutral stimuli. They use this in advertising quite a bit, y'all. In fact, Watson from the Little Albert experiment, he went on and made a lot of money in advertising using classical conditioning concepts to help advertisers create great campaigns that would tap into what we call positive conditioned emotional responses or negative. Some of the early commercials, I think it was soup commercials, Campbell's Soup. Some of the early ads were by Watson, and the advertising that you see today is based on his concepts. They are using classically conditioned techniques to try to get you to buy their products. The axe down there, call me. Listen, when those ads first came on and they showed women flocking to men that would, put axe on, it was very comical, very funny. But hey, I was seeing a lot of young teen boys in my office for different things, and I could smell the axe, And I'm sure they were telling their mom after they saw those commercials, hey, buy me some axe, because, maybe they were not having a lot of luck with the ladies. It can't hurt, these commercials show women flock to you, and it's a conditioned emotional response to it. Budweiser, hey, on average, who buys more beer? Probably men. Probably men buy beer more frequently than women do. So what do you put in the ads? Women. There you go. Hence the Budweiser ad there. Or one other thing, put sports in there. And then you've got a great ad that will market well towards men and elicit a conditioned emotional response. The more we see these ads, the more we're bombarded with them, the more they're being conditioned into us. Politicians kissing babies. We've always heard of presidents. I think every president's had a photo op of kissing babies. This one's kind of cute. There's one of the Bushes. I don't know if it was Junior or his father, where the baby basically screaming and crying as he's trying to kiss the baby. Not when they probably should have released, because it didn't have those nice you know cute sweet emotions that went along with it. But it's powerful. It really does. It plays on the public's perception. It conditions emotional responses. Politicians that are running for office, you'll see here in New Orleans, in the greater New Orleans area, you'll see a lot of mudslinging attack ads work. They do. And for your average voter, if they can condition their opponent in a negative way with negative emotions, there's a chance that they'll get your vote. You'll vote against that person that they don't care for so much. So these are used a lot. Why do you think the Super Bowl ads are what, millions of dollars for a 30-second spot? Because they work, y'all. Because it works. And advertising, a lot of money put into advertising, and conditioned emotional response is at the heart of it and continues to be at the heart of it. Operant conditioning, y'all. This is different than classical conditioning. Classical is passive. Little Albert, the dog, had no decision making. It was being done to them, and they were not aware of it. Operant conditioning is, as it says, an active process. Voluntary behaviors. You know what's going on, and you have a choice to make, and so you make your choice. And the choice is going to have a positive effect, or it's going to have a negative effect. There's going to be reinforcement, or there's going to be punishment. And we'll talk about how this can go in different ways. B.F. Skinner was one of the first people that exposed us to operant conditioning. Some of his work, we'll look at it in a second. Thorndike's law of effect. It says positive outcomes strengthen positive outcomes strengthen behavior, where negative outcomes weaken behavior. And in some of his early work, you can see the cat in the cage that he developed, where he was able to hit a lever which would open the door for him, and then he'd get a positive outcome. So the cat learned how to quickly manipulate this box to have the positive outcome. When it comes to the Skinner box, and you can see the Skinner box over there, like a plexiglass with a grid on the bottom, which was actually hooked up to an electrical charge where you could punish the rat by hitting a button that would elicit an electric shock. But you could also reward the rat by dropping food pellets. And the idea of the Skinner box, and if you guys take behavioral psychology, you take a course in behavioral psychology, you'll probably use a Skinner box. They still use them today to teach these concepts, which are pretty cool. Shaping. Rewarding approximations of desired behavior. And any of y'all that have done dog training 101, or you've trained your pets, you've used shaping concepts. It says using a service dog, for example, rather than waiting for the dog spontaneously to put the clothes in the washing machine, we might reward the dog by carrying the clothes to the laundry room and for bringing them closer and closer to the washing machine. Finally, we might reward the dog only when it gets the clothes inside the washer. Shaping techniques used to train animals, and we also use shaping with people as well. Principles reinforcement. You've got positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So when it comes to reinforcement, we can do it in a positive way, we can do it in a negative way. Now think of it this way: when we're talking about positive reinforcement, if you could add a plus here, and I can't really do it from what I'm doing, but think of it as we're adding something. And when it's negative, think of it as we're taking something away. It's the removal. So don't think of it in terms of good and bad, because reinforcement is good, whether you're doing it in a positive way or a negative way. They're both good. Example, and I think I have some examples here. Positive reinforcement. You turn in your homework on time, teacher praises your performance. So the future behavior, you increasingly turn your homework on time. With a negative reinforcement, you turn your homework in on time, the teacher stops criticizing late homework. Still a good effect, right? You increasingly turn in your homework on time. So we can reinforce in a positive way by adding something, or we can reinforce by removing something. Just two different ways that we can do it. When it comes to some of the principles, generalization, discrimination, extinction, When a student gets excellent grades in a calculus class by studying the course material every night, then they start to do it in other classes as well. It's working for one course, so let me use it in psychology, let me use it in history. We generalize this into other areas of our life if it's working. Discrimination. For example, you go to a restaurant that has a university student discount sign in front, and you enthusiastically flash your ID with the expectation of getting the reward of a reduced price meal. Without the sign showing your ID might get you only a puzzled look, not cheap food. So you have to discriminate between the two. In extinction, the behavior no longer is reinforced. So it's decreased in the frequency of trying it. Example, soda machine that you frequently use starts eating your coins without dispensing soda. You quickly stop inserting coins, right? Several weeks go by, you might try to use the machine again, hoping that it has been fixed. Such behavior this demonstrates spontaneous recovery in operant conditioning as well. Yeah, I'm guilty. Our Coke machine in my office area, building 2 at Delgado Slidell campus is known for eating coins from time to time, but do I go back and try after a few weeks? Yes, I'm a sucker. I do it. Punishment, y'all. You can punish. Remember, punishment decreases the likelihood that behavior will happen. Parenting 101 stuff here. Positive punishment, it's adding something unpleasant. Negative punishment is removing something unpleasant. I'm sorry, taking away of something pleasant. So they're both bad. Let's just put it that way. Positive punishment. When I spank a child, I'm putting my hand to their butt. I'm adding my hand to their butt. That's positive because I'm adding it. It's still punishment, and hopefully it's going to get rid of the behavior. Negative punishment is timeout. I'm sending you to timeout for 2 minutes. I'm taking away your free time. That's the difference. That's the main difference. So when you see examples, basically think of it as am I adding something to the situation, or am I taking something away from the situation? If you look at punishment, behavior, if you go down to punishment there, behavior, you don't replace the tires on the family car when your parent asks you to. Your parent is angry at you for not replacing the tires. The effect, you stop dawdling and replace the tires to avoid your parent's anger. That would be positive punishment. Negative punishment, your younger sister comes home 2 hours after curfew. Your sister's grounded for 2 weeks. The effect, your sister doesn't come home late the next time she's allowed to go out with her friends. So they're both, it's just figuring out what works for what situation. We use these in parenting. We use these in a lot of situations. And sometimes positive punishment is better, sometimes negative. It just really depends on what's going to be effective with what person and so forth. The last thing I want to talk about, y'all, is Bandura's observational learning. It's also called imitation or modeling. Learning when behavior is observed and imitated. Vicarious reinforcement and vicarious punishment. Listen, the Bobo doll study, which I'm not sure if it's mentioned in your book, but it's classic and famous. Basically, it showed the power of observing. They had kids that were allowed to play in a room with this Bobo doll, a big blow-up plastic. Now they have like Batman and Superman and everything, but it was a clown back then. And the kids had objects they could use and so forth. But the first time they were allowed to play, it was pretty passive and gentle and fun and laughing and stuff. And then they were taken out, and their parent was allowed to play, and the parent was instructed to do like 4 or 5 aggressive acts with Bobo doll. And so after the child saw their parent do this, then they swapped roles again. The child mimicked exactly what the parent did. Not only did the aggressive moves with Bobo doll, but even went further. You can see the little boy, he's got like a gun to Bobo doll's head. And this little girl, if you watch the video, she'll pick up a hammer later, a play hammer, and she pins Bobo doll, and she's like wailing away at his head, just bam, bam, bam. It's amazing how the difference in terms of how aggressive they became after watching their parent. And so the whole idea of observational learning is mimicking what we see others do, especially people that have influence on us, such as parents, siblings, teachers, coaches, whoever that might be. It also works in the adult life. I mean, we model pro-social behaviors modeled, negative behaviors modeled, but then just what do we do in circumstances where it's a new environment? You go to the DMV, you watch it for the first time ever, you watch how it goes. People are grabbing numbers, and so you're observing kind of the whole when in Rome, do what other people are doing. It's really crucial, and it's really something that's pretty phenomenal that we can pick up behavior simply by having it mimicked, or mimicking it after observing, watching, and duplicating it. And so, again, your book talks about observational learning. It is an important aspect of learning, and we use it every day.